had less than a minute before dessert arrived. Less than a minute before the men pretending to enjoy their drinks reached for their guns. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped the receipt. Around me, the restaurant hummed with wealth. Crystal glasses clinking, quiet laughter. Lake Michigan glowing beyond the windows, like nothing in the world could go wrong. But everything was already wrong. At table 1 sat Kang Min Jae, billionaire, power broker, the kind of man whose name made rooms go silent. His wife leaned close, her smile flawless, her diamond earrings flashing under candlelight. 20 feet away, I'd just heard her order his death. I wasn't a hero. I was a waitress who needed tips to pay hospital bills. I could have walked away. I should have walked away. Instead, I folded the receipt. 7 words. Your wife betrayed you. You are surrounded. 7 words that would either save his life or end mine. The weight of those words felt impossible in my apron pocket. My feet moved on autopilot, weaving between tables where Chicago's elite cut into Wagyu steaks and laughed about stock portfolios. None of them knew that death was being served alongside the wine. Marcus, the sommelier, gave me a questioning look as I approached table 1. I'd been avoiding it all night, letting the other servers handle the VIP section. But now I had no choice. My reflection caught in the floor-to-ceiling windows. A black woman in a crisp uniform, hair pulled back tight, face arranged in the pleasant mask I perfected over 3 years at the Gilded Crown. Invisible, forgettable, safe. That safety was about to shatter. I steadied my breathing and lifted the glass of Chateau Margaux from my tray. Min Jae's profile was sharp against the city lights, his attention seemingly absorbed by whatever his wife was whispering. Elena Romano Kang wore elegance like armor, her Italian heritage evident in every calculated gesture. Beautiful. Deadly. I'd heard her voice in the wine cellar 15 minutes ago, speaking rapid Italian with 2 men whose suits couldn't quite hide the weapons underneath. Coordinates. Timing. Once dessert is served. The words had frozen me behind the burgundy racks, my heart hammering so loud I was certain they'd hear it. But they hadn't seen me. Nobody ever really saw me. Until now. I slid the glass onto the table with practiced grace, my thumb brushing against his hand, just long enough to leave the folded note beneath his coaster. His eyes met mine. Sharp, knowing, calculating. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. He believed me. His hand moved, subtle, controlled, palm covering the note. His expression never changed, but something shifted in his posture. Alert. Dangerous. Will there be anything else, sir? My voice came out steady, professional, the perfect mask. No, he said quietly. But stay close. That was when the lights went out. 6 hours before everything exploded. I was just trying to survive another Tuesday. My alarm went off at 4:30 a.m. in the studio apartment I shared with memories and medical bills. The space was barely big enough for a bed and a hot plate, but it was mine. Purchased with every double shift, every swallowed insult, every smile I'd forced at men who looked through me like glass. I dressed in the dark, careful not to wake Mrs. Chen next door. She'd been kind when Mum got sick, bringing soup and asking no questions. When Mum died 3 months ago, Mrs. Chen sat with me through the night. Some kindnesses you never forget. The train downtown was half empty, filled with cleaning crews and bakers heading to their own invisible jobs. I watched Chicago slide past the window, gleaming towers giving way to older neighborhoods, wealth and poverty separated by a few stops on the Red Line. The Gilded Crown sat on the magnificent mile like a jewel in a crown, all glass and old money. I entered through the service entrance, punching in at 5:53 a.m., 7 minutes early like always. Morning, Nia. James, the head chef,
was already prepping. The kitchen smelled of butter and fresh bread. "Morning." I tied my apron, checked my reflection in the polished steel. Neat, professional, invisible. The lunch shift passed in a blur of orders and forced pleasantness. By 6 p.m., when the dinner service began, my feet ached and my smile was wearing thin. But dinner was where the real money lived, the tips that kept the lights on and chipped away at Mum's hospital debt. "Table 1 is yours tonight." Marcus appeared beside me, his expression serious. "VIP reservation. Kang Min Jae and his wife." I knew the name. Everyone did. Korean business magnate, investment firms across 3 continents. The kind of wealth that bought politicians and silenced critics. He'd married Elena Romano 3 months ago in a ceremony that made international headlines. Korean power meeting Italian dynasty. Got it. I smoothed my uniform and reviewed my mental checklist. VIP treatment meant perfection. No mistakes. Table 1 sat in the corner, positioned for privacy with a clear view of Lake Michigan. The couple arrived at 7:30, preceded by 4 security personnel who swept the area with professional efficiency. They took positions at nearby tables, trying to blend in and failing. Min Jae moved like contained violence, controlled, aware, every gesture deliberate. Mid-30s, expensive suit that probably cost more than my yearly rent. A face that magazines called handsome and rivals called ruthless. Elena was stunning. Dark hair swept up, a black dress that whispered money, jewelry that could fund a small country. She touched his arm as they sat, leaning close to whisper something that made him nod. Perfect couple. Perfect to lie. I took their order, recommended the wine, played my part. They barely glanced at me. Good. Invisible was safe. But at 8:15, Marcus sent me to the wine cellar for a specific vintage. The cellar was underground, temperature-controlled, lined with bottles worth more than cars. I found the Chateau Margaux and turned to leave. That's when I heard voices. Italian. Fast. Angry. I froze behind a rack of Bordeaux, my heart suddenly racing. The voices belonged to 2 men I'd seen earlier. Expensive suits, cold eyes, positioned at table 7. And Elena Romano's voice, sharp and clear.
"Coordinates are set. The exits are covered. Once dessert is served, you'll have the shot."
Russian accent responding. "And the body?"
"Lake Michigan is deep. He'll disappear like the others."
My hands gripped the wine bottle, knuckles white. This wasn't happening. I was hearing things, misunderstanding.
"Your brother confirmed the payment."
The Italian voice.
"Marco knows what's at stake. With Min Jae gone, we reclaim everything. The Koreans will fracture without him."
Footsteps, moving toward me. I pressed deeper into the shadows, barely breathing. They passed within feet of my hiding spot, still talking, completely unaware. The door closed. Silence. I stood there for 5 minutes, maybe more, my mind racing. Call the police? And say what? That I overheard a conversation I barely understood? They'd laugh. Or worse, they'd ask questions I couldn't answer without losing my job. Walk away? Pretend I heard nothing? But that man upstairs was about to die. His wife had ordered his execution, probably for his money, his power, his empire. And a dozen people would watch it happen while eating dessert. My mother's voice echoed in memory. "Baby, sometimes doing nothing is the same as pulling the trigger yourself." My hands shook as I pulled a receipt from my apron. I wrote fast, my handwriting barely legible. "Your wife betrayed you. You are surrounded." 7 words. 7 words that would change everything. I grabbed the wine and headed back upstairs, the note burning in my pocket like a live grenade. The moment I left the note,
Time splintered into before and after. Min Jae's fingers closed over the paper with surgical precision. His expression never changed, but his eyes, dark, calculating, swept the restaurant in a single glance that catalogued every exit, every face, every threat. "Stay close," he'd said. I nodded and backed away, my pulse hammering. Elena was watching me now, her smile fixed, but her eyes sharp. Did she know? Could she tell? I retreated to the service station, my hands busy with meaningless
tasks, folding napkins, polishing already clean silver. Through my peripheral vision, I watched table 1. Min Jae leaned toward his wife, whispering something that made her laugh. His hand covered hers. To anyone watching, they were newlyweds sharing an intimate moment. But his other hand had disappeared beneath the table. Seconds crawled. The kitchen sent out appetizers. Wine flowed. The restaurant hummed with oblivious wealth. Then Min Jae stood. "Excuse me a moment," he said pleasantly to Elena. He walked toward the restrooms, his stride unhurried. 2 of his security team followed at a discreet distance. Elena's smile tightened. She lifted her phone, typed something quickly. At table 7, one of the Italian men adjusted his jacket. The lights went out. Not just dimmed, completely black, as if someone had cut the power to the entire building. Gasps erupted around the dining room. Nervous laughter. Someone called for candles. Then the first gunshot shattered reality. The muzzle flash lit the darkness like lightning, and I saw everything in that frozen moment. The Italian gunman standing, his weapon aimed at where Min Jae had been sitting. Elena diving beneath the table, security drawing weapons. Chaos detonated. More gunfire, screaming, glass exploding. I dropped behind the service station as bullets shredded the air above me. The sound was deafening, nothing like movies, a visceral assault that made my bones vibrate. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in hellish red. Bodies on the floor. I couldn't tell if they were hiding or dead. The Italian gunman was down, his chest blooming red. One of Min Jae's security team stood over him, weapon raised. Where was Min Jae? A hand grabbed my arm and I screamed. "Move!" His voice, cold, absolute. Min Jae dragged me from behind the service station, using my body as a shield as we moved toward the kitchen. Bullets chased us, chewing through walls and furniture. His arm was locked around my waist, his other hand holding a gun I hadn't seen him draw. He fired twice without looking, and someone behind us went down. We crashed through the kitchen doors. James was on the floor, hands over his head. The other staff had fled or were hiding. Min Jae pulled me past the prep stations, through the walk-in freezer, toward the delivery entrance. "This way is covered," I gasped. "They'll be waiting." He shoved me against the wall beside the freezer door, his body shielding mine as bullets punched through the steel behind us. The cold bit into my back. His face was inches from mine, his breath controlled despite the violence. "How many?" he demanded. "What?" "In the cellar. How many voices did you hear?" My mind raced. 3, maybe 4. Italian, Russian. They said, "I know what they said." His eyes bored into mine. "You saved my life. Congratulations. Now you're involved." "I don't want to be involved. Too late." He grabbed my hand and pulled me deeper into the kitchen, away from The delivery entrance. The basement. Loading dock. Go. We ran. Behind us, the firefight continued. Min Jae's security team buying us time with their lives. The stairs down were narrow, industrial. My shoes slipped on the concrete. He caught me, kept me upright, never slowing. The loading dock was dark and empty. A black SUV idled in the alley, its driver scanning the shadows with a weapon. "Go!" Min Jae shoved me toward the vehicle. The driver opened the rear door, and I tumbled inside. Min Jae followed, slamming the door as the SUV exploded forward. Gunfire sparked off the armored exterior. The driver took corners at speeds that defied physics. I was thrown against Min Jae, his arm automatically steadying me. "Where are we going?" I managed. "Somewhere they can't follow. My apartment is already compromised." He was checking his phone, his face illuminated by the screen. "Elena's family moves fast. By now they know you warned me. They'll assume you know more than you do." "I don't know anything." "Doesn't matter." His eyes met mine, and in them I saw the truth. "You're leverage now, to draw me out, to make me vulnerable." "So what happens to me?" Min Jae's smile was cold and sharp. "You stay alive, and you do exactly what I say." The safe house was not what I expected. We drove for 30 minutes, leaving Chicago's lights behind for darker suburbs, then further into countryside I didn't recognize. The SUV finally turned down a private road flanked by tall fences and surveillance cameras. The house rose from manicured grounds like something from an architecture magazine, all glass and steel and aggressive modernity. Armed guards waved us through 2 security checkpoints. Floodlights made the grounds bright as day. "Out," Min Jae said. I climbed from the SUV on shaking legs. My uniform was torn, my apron bloody, though I didn't remember getting hurt. The night air was cold, and I was suddenly aware of how badly I was trembling. Min Jae spoke rapid Korean to his security team. They dispersed with military efficiency. He turned to me, his expression unreadable. Inside. The interior was exactly as cold as the exterior suggested. Marble floors, minimal furniture, everything designed for function over comfort. A control room visible through glass walls showed multiple screens tracking security feeds. Men and women in tactical gear moved through the space like this was routine, because for them, it probably was. "This way." Min Jae led me through a hallway lined with abstract art worth more than my entire life. He opened a door to a bedroom that was larger than my apartment. "Bathroom through there. Clothes in the closet should fit. You'll stay here." "How long?" "As long as necessary." "I have a job." "You had a job." "The Gilded Crown is now a crime scene. The staff are being questioned by police, and probably some of Eleanor's people pretending to be police." He leaned against the doorframe, studying me. "By tomorrow, your apartment will be searched. Your bank accounts monitored. Every friend you've ever called will be contacted." The reality hit like cold water. My life. Small, careful, invisible, was gone. "What do they want from me?" "Information. They'd assume I told you something. Shared secrets." His smile was bitter. "Eleanor doesn't know you're nobody. She'll think you're an asset worth keeping. Or killing." "And what do you think I am?" The question hung between us. Min Jae pushed off the doorframe and walked toward me. I forced myself not to back away. He stopped inches from me, close enough that I could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes, the faint scar along his jaw. "You're a problem," he said quietly. "But you're my problem now." I didn't ask for this. "No, you just decided to play hero." His finger lifted my chin, forcing me to meet his eyes. 7 words. Do you regret them? Did I? A man was alive because of what I'd done. People were also dead because of what I'd done. The world had become complicated in ways I'd never imagined. "I don't know," I whispered. "Good. Certainty is dangerous." He released me and stepped back. "Shower. Change. Someone will bring food. Don't try to leave. The security system will alert me, and I'm tired of chasing you." He left, closing the door behind him. I stood there for a long moment, trying to process everything. Then my legs gave out,
and I sank onto the bed, my body finally acknowledging the terror it had been holding back. I'd nearly died tonight. I'd watched people die. I'd been dragged into a world I didn't understand by a man who saw me as a problem to be managed. But I was alive. The shower was too hot and too long. I scrubbed away blood and smoke until my skin was raw. The clothes in the closet were expensive. Designer labels I recognized from magazines. I chose simple black pants and a sweater, both fitting better than they should have. Food arrived, brought by a silent woman who left the tray and disappeared. I ate mechanically, tasting nothing. I was exhausted but couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw muzzle flashes, heard screaming, felt Min Jae's arm around my waist as bullets chased us through darkness. At 3 a.m., I gave up and explored the room. The windows were bulletproof, offering a view of grounds lit like a prison yard. The door was unlocked, but opened into a hallway where armed guards patrolled. I was a prisoner in a gilded cage. On the nightstand, someone had left my phone, and a handwritten note in sharp, precise script. Sleep. Tomorrow we discuss what you heard, what you know, and what you're willing to do to stay alive. MJ. I stared at those words until they blurred. What was I willing to do? 3 months ago, I'd watched my
mother die in a hospital that cared more about paperwork than patients. I'd held her hand and promised to survive, to be smart, to build something better. Now I was trapped in a war I didn't understand, protected by a man who might be as dangerous as the people hunting us. But I was still breathing, and that had to count for something. Morning came with a knock on the door. Not Min Jae, but a woman in her 40s, elegant in a charcoal suit, carrying a tablet and the air of someone used to giving orders. Miss Brooks, I'm Sarah Kim, Mr. Kang's chief of security. We need to debrief you. The room she led me to was all business. Conference table, screens on the walls, and Min Jae standing by the window with his back to us. He turned as we entered, dressed in fresh clothes, looking like he'd slept perfectly when I knew he couldn't have. Sit, Sarah said, not unkindly. I sat. Min Jae took the chair across from me. Sarah activated the screens and suddenly I was looking at surveillance footage from the Gilded Crown. Start from the beginning, Min Jae said. Everything you heard in the wine cellar. I recounted it. The voices, the languages, the coordinates and timing. Sarah typed rapidly, pulling up files and photos on the screens. These men? She displayed images of the two from table 7. Yes, the one speaking Italian. Roberto Fiore, Elena's cousin. The other was Alexei Volkov, Russian Mafia with ties to the Romanos. Sarah's expression was grim. Both dead now, but they were just soldiers. The brother, Min Jae said. You heard Elena mention a brother. Marco. She said, Marco knows what's at stake. Min Jae's jaw tightened. Sarah pulled up a new photo. A man in his 30s, handsome in a cruel way, wearing an expensive suit and a cold smile. Marco Romano, Elena's younger brother. He controls the family's European operations. Sarah zoomed in on the image. If he sanctioned this, it means the entire Romano family is behind it. It's more than that, Min Jae said quietly. He stood and paced, his mind clearly working through layers I couldn't see. Elena's been married to me for 3 months. That's not enough time to organize this unless she planned it from the beginning, Sarah finished. The marriage was the setup. I felt sick. She married you to kill you. She married me to access my empire. The Romano family has been struggling since the EU crackdown on their operations. They needed capital, legitimate business fronts, Asian markets. Min Jae's smile was sharp as broken glass. I gave them all of that, and they were going to take it permanently. But why go through with the marriage? I asked. Why not just... Because divorce raises questions. Divorce means lawyers and asset divisions and investigations. Sarah leaned back in her chair. But a grieving widow. She inherits everything. And with the right documentation, she controls his companies while his affairs are settled.
The screens changed, showing legal documents, contracts, stock transfers. I was careful, Min Jae said. But she had 3 months of access. Enough time to plant her people in key positions. Enough time to forge documents, create backdoors. He turned to me. If you hadn't warned me, I'd be dead. Within a week, she'd controlled everything I've built. What happens now? Now? Min Jae's eyes were cold. We dismantle her piece by piece, starting with her brother. Sarah pulled up new files. Marco is in Chicago. He flew in 2 days ago under a diplomatic passport. He's staying at the Romano family estate in Lake Forest. Heavily guarded, Min Jae observed. Yes, but he's getting sloppy, confident. Sarah highlighted several surveillance photos. He's been meeting with your business rivals, offering them pieces of your empire at discount prices, assuming they'll be available soon. Selling what he doesn't own. Min Jae almost smiled. Arrogant. I watched them plan, feeling increasingly out of my depth. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was corporate warfare mixed with actual warfare. What about me? I asked. Where do I fit in this? Min Jae turned, his expression considering. You're the witness. The only person who can testify that Elena orchestrated this. But more importantly, he walked toward me, stopping close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Your leverage. Against Elena. Against everyone. The police want to question you about the shooting. Elena wants you dead. My business rivals want to know what you know. His hand brushed my cheek, almost gentle. And I want you alive. Why? Because you chose to save me when you had every reason not to. That kind of choice is rare. He stepped back. So you stay here. You stay alive. And when the time comes, you tell your story to the people who matter. And if I refuse? Then Elena's people find you, and your story ends in Lake Michigan. He wasn't threatening, just stating facts. This isn't the life you chose, Nia, but it's the life you have now. The screens behind him showed Marco Romano's cold smile, frozen in surveillance footage. How long? I asked. Until we finish this. Min Jae headed for the door. One way or another. 3 days in the fortress taught me that safety was its own kind of prison. Sarah became my constant companion, part bodyguard, part instructor, part reluctant friend. She taught me the security protocols, the safe rooms, which guards were Min Jae's personal team
versus contracted security. You need to understand the infrastructure, she explained during breakfast on day 2. If something goes wrong, you can't depend on anyone else to save you. What could go wrong? This place is a bunker. Her look was flat. Elena has resources you can't imagine. Money buys people. People create vulnerabilities. That afternoon, she handed me a phone. Encrypted. Direct line to Min Jae and myself. Memorize the emergency protocols. She pulled up a map of the house on the screen. These are the exits. These are the panic rooms.
This is where you go if we're breached.
You really think they'll find us here?
I think they're already looking.
Sarah's expression softened slightly.
You did a brave thing, Nia. Stupid, but brave. Now you need to be smart.
Smart meant learning things I'd never imagined. Sarah showed me how to spot surveillance, how to vary patterns, how to read people for threats. She gave me a panic button disguised as a bracelet.
Wear it always. Press it and help comes. Don't press it unless you're certain.
Min Jae appeared irregularly, sometimes for hours, sometimes just minutes. He was always on the phone, speaking English, Korean, Japanese, switching languages like switching weapons. I caught fragments of his conversations. Lawyers, bankers, politicians, people whose names I recognized from news headlines. He was building something. I just didn't know what. On the fourth night, he found me in the library, unable to sleep again. The room was all dark wood and leather chairs, more books than I'd seen outside a public library. Trouble sleeping? He appeared in the doorway like a shadow. I jumped, my hand instinctively going to the panic bracelet. He noticed and almost smiled. Sarah's training you well. She's terrifying. That's why she's alive. He crossed to the bar and poured 2 glasses of something amber. He offered me one. You don't have to, but it helps. I took it. The whiskey burned going down. Good burn. Real burn. Min Jae settled into the chair across from me. In the dim light, he looked younger, tired, almost human. Why did you save me? I asked suddenly. The whiskey made me bold. In the restaurant. You could have left me there, run faster without me. I could have. He studied his glass. But you took a risk for me. That deserved acknowledgement. I'm not an investment. No, you're a complication. His eyes met mine. But sometimes complications are the most interesting part. Something in his voice made my breath catch. This close, in the quiet dark, the power imbalance felt different. Not safer, just different. Tell me about her, I said. Elena. When did you know? That she would betray me? He leaned back. I suspected from the beginning. The Romanos needed what I offered too desperately, but I thought I could control it. Use the marriage to expand into Europe, gain legitimacy in markets where my reputation was problematic. What's your reputation? His smile was dangerous. That I'm very good at eliminating competition. That I make people disappear when they become obstacles. That I built my empire on blood as much as business. He watched my reaction. Does that frighten you? Should it? I don't know. Should it? The question hung between us. I thought about the restaurant, the way he'd moved through violence like water through stone. Natural. Practiced. Lethal. I think, I said carefully, that I'm already terrified. Adding you to the list won't change much. He laughed, a real laugh, surprising and warm. Honest. I like that. Sarah says honesty is a luxury the wealthy can't afford. Sarah is usually right. He finished his whiskey and stood. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we move to phase 2. Which is? Making Elena very, very nervous. He paused at the door. And teaching you how to survive in my world. After he left, I sat in the dark library, turning his words over in my mind. Survive in his world. As if I had a choice. As if I hadn't already crossed a line I could never uncross. My phone buzzed, the encrypted one.
A message from Sarah. Surveillance detected near perimeter. Possible Romano scouts. Increasing security level. Stay alert. I looked at the panic bracelet on my wrist, feeling its weight for the first time. Tomorrow, Sarah had said. Tomorrow the real training began. Tomorrow I would learn what it meant to stop being invisible and start being dangerous. The plan was insane. That's what made it brilliant. Absolutely not, Sarah said flatly. You're putting her in the open. She's not trained for this. She doesn't need to be trained. She needs to be visible. Min Jae spread photographs across the conference table. The Chicago Business Summit. 500 guests, press coverage, security everywhere. Which is exactly where they'll try to hit you. Yes, but they won't expect me to bring her. He tapped my photograph. Somehow he'd obtained one from my employee file. Elena thinks Nia is hiding, scared. If she appears at my side at a public event, it sends a message. What message? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. That I'm not afraid, that I have nothing to hide. His eyes met mine. And that you're under my protection, permanently. The summit was in 3 days. 3 days to transform from waitress to, what? Asset? Weapon? Trophy? If I do this, I said slowly, what happens after? After, Elena has to make a choice. Come at us publicly and risk exposure, or back down and lose face with her family. Min Jae's smile was sharp. Either way, we win. Sarah wasn't convinced. You're assuming they play by rules. They don't. Neither do I. Min Jae turned to me. You'll need training, dress rehearsals. Sarah will teach
You what you need to know. And if I say no? Then you stay here until this is over. Safe. Hidden. Useless. His expression didn't change. Your choice. I thought of my mother. Of the invisibility that had been both shield and cage. Of the moment in the wine cellar when I'd chosen to act instead of hide. When do we start? The next 3 days were brutal. Sarah drilled me on protocols, on reading rooms, on staying calm under pressure. She brought in a stylist who transformed me, hair, makeup, clothing. The woman in the mirror looked like someone who belonged in Min Jae's world. Good, Sarah said, studying me. Now let's teach you how to walk like it. We practiced everything. How to enter a room, how to stand beside Min Jae without looking like staff, how to deflect questions without seeming evasive, how to spot threats in crowds. They'll try to separate you from him, Sarah warned. Friendly faces, innocent questions, anything to get you alone. Don't fall for it. And if they succeed? She handed me something small and sharp. Then you use this, and you run. The night before the summit, Min Jae appeared at my door. He was dressed formally already, checking his watch, but he paused when he saw me. You look different. Is that good or bad? Neither. Just different. He stepped into the room. Tomorrow will be dangerous. Elena will be there. She's still publicly my wife, and appearing with me maintains her cover. Her people will be watching. I know. If anything happens, Sarah will extract you. Don't try to be brave. His hand lifted, brushing my cheek. You've already been brave enough. The gesture surprised me. Surprised us both, I think. His fingers lingered a moment too long before he pulled back. Tomorrow, he said quietly, everyone will see you. There's no going back after that.
Good, I said. I'm tired of being invisible. The summit was held at the Fairmont, a glittering fortress of wealth and power. We arrived in a convoy, bulletproof cars, armed security, the whole theatrical production. Cameras flashed as Min Jae emerged first, then turned to offer me his hand. I took it and stepped into the light. The cameras went insane. Mr. Kang, who is your companion? Kang Min Jae, is this a new relationship? Sir, what about your wife? Min Jae smiled pleasantly and said nothing. His hand on my back guided me through the crowd with practiced ease. Sarah and her team formed a perimeter, their eyes constantly scanning. Inside, the ballroom was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers, silk tablecloths, Chicago's elite in their finest armor. I felt every eye tracking our movement. Then I saw her. Elena stood near the bar, stunning in a white gown, surrounded by admirers. Her smile was perfect. Her eyes, when they found mine, were murder. Min Jae felt my tension. Steady, he murmured. Elena approached, her movements liquid grace. Darling, she said to Min Jae, kissing his cheek. Then to me, with a smile that never reached
Her eyes. And who is your friend? Nia Brooks, Min Jae said calmly. She saved my life. How fortunate. Elena's nails, I noticed, were painted blood red. We should talk, darling. Privately. Later. Right now, I have appointments to keep. We moved away, but I felt Elena's stare burning into my back. That went well, I managed. That, Min Jae said, was the easy part. The attack came during dinner. We were seated at the head table, surrounded by Chicago's powerful, when the fire alarm screamed. Confusion rippled through the ballroom. Min Jae's security team immediately moved into formation. It's a diversion, Sarah said into her calm. Stay alert. The lights died. Emergency lighting flickered on, bathing everything in red. And through the service entrance, men in tactical gear poured into the room. Not police, not security. Hunters. Down! Sarah threw me behind the overturned table. Gunfire erupted. Controlled bursts. Professional. Min Jae's team returned fire, but we were outnumbered. Northwest exit, Min Jae ordered. He grabbed my arm, pulling me into the chaos. Around us, guests screamed and ran. The tactical team ignored them, focused solely on us. We made it to the hallway. Sarah led, weapon drawn, her team forming a protective diamond around Min Jae and me. Behind us, the firefight intensified. Service elevator, Sarah directed. We ran. My heels, stupid, impractical heels, slowed me down. I kicked them off, running barefoot on cold marble. The elevator doors opened. We crowded inside. Sarah hit the button for the garage level. That's when Marco Romano stepped into view. Elena's brother stood in the hallway, flanked by 6 armed men. He was smiling. Going somewhere, brother-in-law? Marco. Min Jae's voice was cold. I should have known you'd be too arrogant to stay away. Arrogant? I call it confident. Marco's gaze shifted to me. You must be the waitress, the one who ruined everything. The elevator doors started to close. Marco's men raised weapons. Sarah fired first. The hallway exploded into violence.
Sarah's team laid down covering fire as the elevator doors closed, sealing us in. The car descended. "You have men in the garage," Sarah said, reloading. "Be ready." Min Jae checked his own weapon. "How many?" "Too many." The elevator stopped. Doors opened to the parking garage, concrete and shadows, and the smell of gasoline. Sarah's team exited first, weapons sweeping the space. Clear. We moved toward the waiting SUVs. 50 feet. 40. Almost there. Then Marco's voice echoed through the garage, amplified by speakers. "You can't run forever, Min Jae. Elena wants her inheritance. I want your markets. You're already dead. You just don't know it yet."
"He's stalling," Sarah said. "Move faster." The explosion came from above. The ceiling cracked, concrete raining down. We scattered, but the blast separated us. When the dust cleared, I was alone with Min Jae behind a concrete pillar. Sarah and her team were cut off on the other side of the debris.
"Sarah!"
Min Jae called.
"Go! Get her out!"
Sarah's voice was strained.
"We'll hold them!"
Figures emerged from the shadows. Marco's team, closing in. Min Jae pulled me toward a maintenance exit, firing behind us. We crashed through a door into a narrow stairwell. Up. Always up. My lungs burned. My feet bled on the rough concrete. Behind us, footsteps thundered. We burst onto the roof. Cold Chicago air, city lights stretching forever. Nowhere left to run.
"Helicopter,"
Min Jae said into his phone.
"Now! Roof of the Fairmont."
"5 minutes out," came the reply. We didn't have 5 minutes. The stairwell door exploded open. Marco emerged, no longer smiling. Behind him, 3 men with weapons. "End of the line," Marco said. "Elena sends her regards." Min Jae put himself between Marco and me.
"This isn't about the business anymore, is it? It's personal."
"Very personal." Marco's eyes were cold. "You humiliated my sister. Destroyed our plans. You think I'll let that stand?"
"Your sister tried to murder me for money."
"Our family has a tradition. We don't leave debts unpaid. Blood debts, least of all." Marco raised his weapon. "Any last words?"
"Yes," Min Jae said calmly. "Check your accounts."
Marco hesitated. "What?"
"While you were busy playing soldier, I was playing chess. Every business deal you made this week, every backdoor deal, every contract, every payment."
Min Jae smiled.
"All traced back to you. All tied to your sister's murder plot. By tomorrow, the FBI will have everything."
"You're bluffing."
"Am I? Check your phone. I sent you the evidence."
Marco's confidence cracked. He pulled out his phone, his face paling as he scrolled through files Min Jae had somehow sent him. That's when the helicopter appeared. The rotor wash drove everyone back. Sarah's voice crackled over comms.
"Got you covered! Go!"
Min Jae grabbed my hand and ran. We reached the helicopter, hands pulling us inside. Below, Marco screamed orders, but it was too late. We lifted into the Chicago night, leaving chaos behind. Through the window, I saw police vehicles converging on the Fairmont. Saw Marco and his men fleeing. "What did you send him?" I asked. Min Jae's smile was sharp. His confession, his bank transfers, everything he thought was hidden. He looked at me. "You were the distraction. While everyone watched you, I was dismantling their empire." The news broke at dawn. "Romano crime family under federal investigation." The headline screamed across every major outlet. Photos of Marco being arrested. documents detailing money laundering, contract killings, international smuggling operations. And at the center of it all, Elena Romano Kang, facing charges of conspiracy to commit murder. We watched from a different safe house, this one in Wisconsin, far from Chicago's chaos. Min Jae stood at the window, coffee in hand, watching the news cycle devour the family that had tried to devour him. "How did you get all of it?" I asked. "I've been collecting evidence for months. Ever since I realized Elena's interest in me wasn't romantic." He turned from the window. "The marriage gave me access to their communications, their networks. I just needed time to piece it together." "So you used her like she was using you?" "Yes." No apology in his voice. "Business is war by other means. She understood that. She just played poorly." My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. Min Jae nodded permission. I answered. "Nia Brooks?" A woman's voice. Professional. Official. "This is Special Agent Martinez, FBI. We need you to come in for questioning regarding the events at the Gilded Crown and the Fairmont Hotel." Min Jae took the phone. "Agent Martinez, Kang Min Jae. Miss Brooks will cooperate fully, but only with immunity guarantees and protection assurances in writing. She's a witness, not a suspect." A pause. "Mr. Kang?" "Yes, we can arrange that. Tomorrow morning?" "My lawyers will contact you within the hour." He ended the call. To me. "This is it. The moment we've been building toward. Your testimony will bury them." "And then what? I testify and disappear?" "If that's what you want." Something shifted in his expression. "Or you could stay." "Stay where? As what?" "As someone who understands this world, who's proven herself in it." He crosses the room, stopping close enough that I could feel his presence. "The waitress you were doesn't exist anymore. But the woman you're becoming? She's worth knowing." My heart hammered. This proximity, this intensity. It was dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with guns or families. "I don't belong in your world. You didn't belong in it a week ago. Now?" His fingers brushed my jaw. "Now you're exactly where you need to be." The kiss was inevitable. Electric. Wrong and right simultaneously. His hand cupped the back of my neck, pulling me closer. And I let him. Let myself forget for one moment about testimony and danger and the impossible distance between a waitress and a billionaire. When we broke apart, he smiled. Genuinely smiled. "Stay," he said simply. The next morning, I walked into the federal building, flanked by lawyers Min Jae had hired. The deposition took 6 hours. I told them everything. The wine cellar, the note, the attacks, Marco's confession. Agents typed frantically, recording every word. When it was finished, Agent Martinez shook my hand. "You've been incredibly helpful, Miss Brooks. This case is going to have repercussions for years." "What happens to Elena?" "She's fighting extradition to Italy, where additional charges are pending. But with your testimony and Mr. Kang's evidence, she'll spend considerable time in prison." Martinez paused. "You did a brave thing. Most people would have looked away." I left the federal building to find a media circus waiting. Cameras, reporters, questions shouted from every direction. "Miss Brooks, how do you feel about taking down a crime family? Are you in a relationship with Kang Min Jae? What's next for you?" Min Jae's security team formed a wall, guiding me to the waiting car. Inside, Min Jae was on the phone, switching between languages, managing his empire remotely. He ended the call as we drove away. "How do you feel?"
Exhausted, relieved, terrified. I laughed weakly. All of it at once. Welcome to my life. He took my hand, his thumb brushing my knuckles. The hard part is over. Now comes the rebuilding. What needs rebuilding? Everything. Trust, reputation, security. He looked at me. The question is whether you want to be part of that rebuilding. I thought about my old life, the apartment, the double shifts, the invisibility. It was safe, small, painless. But safety had never felt like living. What would I do? I asked. Whatever you want. I have companies that need oversight, projects that need management, or, he smiled, you could go back to school, finish your degree, build something new. With your money? Consider it payment for saving my life. Twice. Through the window, Chicago passed by. The city I'd served, the city that had never really seen me. But Min Jae had seen me. In the darkest moment, he'd seen me choose courage over safety. Maybe that was worth building on. Okay, I said. I'll stay. His smile made the danger worth it. 6 months later, I stood in a boardroom I would have been terrified to enter a year ago. The view overlooked Lake Michigan, the same water that had witnessed the beginning of everything. But the woman reflected in the glass was unrecognizable from the one who'd served drinks and absorbed insults. This woman wore power comfortably. She'd earned it. The quarterly reports show projected growth in 3 sectors, I said, addressing the board members. Executives who commanded billions listened as I walked them through expansions, risks, opportunities. I recommend we diversify further into sustainable technologies. Min Jae watched from the head of the table, his expression proud. After the meeting, when the executives had filed out, he crossed to where I stood. Impressive. I had a good teacher, I smiled. Sarah says I'm still too trusting, that I need to be more paranoid. Sarah is paranoid.
Enough for everyone. He handed me a folder. This came in this morning. Thought you'd want to see it. Elena's sentencing. 25 years federal prison. Marco got 35, with additional charges pending in 3 countries. The Romano Empire had collapsed, its assets seized, its power shattered. How do you feel? Min Jae asked. Like justice was served, but also, I struggled for words. Like I should feel more satisfaction than I do. Revenge gets boring once you achieve it. He turned toward the window. That's why building something matters more than destroying something. Over 6 months, I'd learned what he meant. Min Jae had given me opportunities, education, training, responsibilities. I'd gone back to school online, studying business and international law. He'd offered me positions in his companies, starting small but with real authority. I discovered I was good at this. The same skills that made me read customers in a restaurant translated to reading executives in boardrooms. The empathy I'd learned serving people helped me negotiate deals and understand markets. The invisibility I'd perfected became strategic discretion. The scholarship fund is launching next month, Min Jae said. You should be there for the announcement. The Nia Brooks Foundation, established in my mother's name, providing education funding for children of service workers. Min Jae had offered the initial capital. I was building the infrastructure. It doesn't feel real sometimes. What part? The foundation? The job? He moved closer. Us. Us. That was the most complicated part. We weren't quite business partners, not exactly employer and employee. The kiss 6 months ago had led to carefully maintained professional distance, but the tension remained.
electric, unresolved, undeniable. All of it, I admitted. Good. The moment it feels completely real is when you've stopped paying attention. His hand found mine. You've built something remarkable, Mia. You took tragedy and chaos and turned it into purpose. We did. No, this was you. He squeezed my hand. I just gave you the resources. You did the work. Through the window, Chicago stretched out in afternoon light. Somewhere in that city, my old apartment still stood. The restaurant where everything began. The life I'd left behind. But I didn't miss it. The invisibility had been survival, not living. Min Jae? I turned to him. What happens now? Now? He smiled. We keep building. You grow the foundation. I expand into new markets. Together we create something neither of us could have built alone. And the other thing, the complicated thing. His smile shifted, becoming something warmer, dangerous. That depends on whether you're ready to stop being careful. My heart raced. We'd been careful for 6 months. Professional, appropriate, boundaried. But some lines were drawn to be crossed. I think, I said slowly, I've been careful my entire life. Maybe it's time to be brave.
Again. He kissed me. Properly this time, without chaos or danger forcing the moment. Just him and me, and a choice made freely. When we broke apart, Chicago glittered below us. 7 words had changed everything. But the best words were still unwritten.